Now let's rip apart the Kandahar Giant rumor, legend, whatever you want to call it. All right, let's pull up Walker. Why don't you walk us through your information that basically debunks this entire thing? Can you hear me?
Okay, so we clearly shown. Yeah, how about now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep, there's going to be a delay.
We've clearly shown there's information out there.
All right, hang on a
I'm
minute.
gonna
Walker,
drop the
hang on,
video
Walker.
because there's some delay.
You're buffering real bad. Can you turn off your
Yes.
video so we can hear your voice?
Go ahead.
All right, continue on.
Mhm. I did. Roger,
All right.
did it. Okay, so we've clearly shown what an in-depth subject this is. Okay, the problem with the Kandahar Giant, this story is just so low rent to anybody with working knowledge, and you're a paranormal researcher. Credibility doesn't matter what you want to hear; it's about the credibility. And this story just hit on a particular time and place that I literally would have been the first person to know about it. And it first of all, people who pose and steal valor as special forces guys is a no-go. And those who disrespect the death of special forces guys, if it didn't happen, you can't use special forces to try to validate your story. I took every one of those tests very hard, and I'm not going to allow it to happen. Special forces usually do not come out in the public like SEALs do. But every video, somebody has to know. Somebody had to be there. Well, will this change anything? No, because people can't be bothered by facts. But this particular story just doesn't fly. And I'm not saying it can't be possible, but you got to come at me with as much detail as I have to turn my opinion of this story.
So what you're saying is, if they want to countermand what you have to say, they better have some fucking proof.
Yeah, I don't want to see infographics. I don't want to see stock footage of a different era. I don't want to see AI photos. I want to see photos of the time, the era, and I'm putting my name out there for one, which there's no upside because somebody could dive into screwing with me rather than the story of just finding facts of the story. That's just the way people are. But I can't take it anymore watching this circular reporting.
Okay.
And they're using terms. Every video is creating more terms that they're saying it was widely reported. It was an open secret. It was well documented. Well, you didn't slip one past the goalie with a story like this when I was there, because I would have been all over it. I sold $4,000 of alcohol a month. I ran the alcohol black market in Kandahar.
Yeah.
Everybody was in my pocket. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Anything weird below the boards, I drew the line at drugs. I did have to sell some roids to make things happen, but I'm at 100% anti-drug. But everything short of that, I ran the drug deals, the scrounger, for
yeah, I've
anything
heard the
that
stories
had to happen that you didn't want to do paperwork.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about you getting concrete work done and having to find a bunch of lobster tails, and it's the typical, if you watch the movie or the show MASH, Ray O'Reilly, who's really good at horse trading to get shit done, this was your guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it for almost 10 years on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So come on now.
So in an official capacity, like, okay, can the aircraft perform this thing that we're trying to do? All the way down, I had the Afghan general in my pocket. I met with the Afghan governor. The governor looked at me because I had a scope on my N4. He goes, "I like your rifle. Give me 30 of them." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not allowed to do that." But I had Afghan commanders, the sheriff of Kandahar. These people came to me with information. I ran courier for the OGA. You're in a car with the individual for an hour.
Uh-huh.
If you need to set up a meeting with an Afghan, I was your guy.
I like it. So what you're trying to say here is at no time with all of your dealings did this rumor of a giant come across your ears or desk.
No, I would have been on it.
Uh-huh.
Trust me, I'd have been the first guy helping it happen. If there was a cover up, and we're not government shills.
Uh-huh.
I've had emails erased from my inbox, my Facebook. You've had the FBI visit you. I was a Benghazi whistleblower. Also, we've all had these, Marty had the closed door congressional testimony. I've been blackballed from State Department jobs. We're not government shills.
That's right. You tell the truth.
And so I had 8 things that I just came up with that this doesn't pass the smell test.
All right, let's ask some questions here. All right. First of all, what unit was involved in this whole craziness? Who is the commander? What was the chain of command? All right. Now, I've been around when soldiers get whacked. When a soldier, it doesn't matter. It could be a line cook to a CAG operator. Once that hits the chain, there's a bunch of events that have to take place. Period.
Now, is it possible you could grab
up?
one team? You could grab one team and force them to sign NDAs. Sure.
Correct.
But the air crew, the flight line crew, the forklift operator, the crew chief, the guys on the flight line.
And what about their buddies?
Their mind?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Listen.
Yeah, the buddies won't ask questions. Where'd my buddy go?
It's right. Listen, if I'm an operator and one of my close friends or one of my buddies I worked with, I blood, sweat, and tears, all of a sudden disappears, and they're like, "Well, you just need to be quiet." I'd be like, "Go fuck yourself. There's a whole box of offs you could go fuck, because I'm going to find out what the hell's going on." And this attitude that I have is very common in the special operations community. All right, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, as a line grunt, maybe they could say you're basically nobody, but in special ops, you're a somebody. Remember in the movie Lone Survivor, these guys loaded the aircraft like ready to go. I've seen it twice. The whole TOC run out the door while I'm the single guy standing there.
Yep. Okay. Now here's another thing. You were talking about Task Force 160. If they were going to move a high value target like that, like the body of a giant, they would probably use Task Force 160, not regular helicopter pilots. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. Because the 101st Chinooks that were there, you could not, if you're talking secrecy, how are you going to let a division of grunts let you see it do it?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So it had to be one of the two MCH-47 Echo models. There was 2 aircraft that could do
Correct.
It. That's it.
Now, here's a side note. I've told this story before. When I was in Iraq, our company confiscated a full truck full of ammunition of various types, bombs, explosives, what have you, that was going to Fallujah prior to the first Fallujah fight. And there was a pallet of VX NBC rounds on that truck. It wasn't a full pallet. I think it was like 27 shells. It was parked on Victory. I got called up there to identify that it was the truck. They came, took the pallet off with a forklift, put it onto a C-130. I assume it was a C-130. I can't recall how many engines it had. And they told me to shut the fuck up. And I'm like, okay, or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But that's how they get rid of shit. I saw it happen. They didn't make me sign an NDA. They just told me to shut the fuck up. It is what it is. I think they just wanted to keep the whole thing hush hush. But my entire unit knew the truck existed. There's still people talking about it all over the place. You're not going to be able to keep a fucking giant who killed 6 operators with a spear quiet. It's not going to happen. All right, sorry, keep going. I'm getting spun up here.
The story keeps changing, and that's another smell of BS. Because first it was contractors. Well, contractors didn't even exist at this time. And being a contractor, the rules of engagement do not allow you to do offensive operations. And we had third group, we had SEAL Team 10 or 8, I believe. We had the STS, Norwegian, German KSK, which is their Delta, Canadian Task Force 2, which is their Delta, Danish SF, New Zealand SAS. It was a mini Fort Bragg. And you telling me that these guys would let contractors steal their trigger time? Absolutely not. Because, okay, early on, all deaths or even encounters were a big deal. Our saying was, we got them right where we want them, all around us. Because we were just trying to find them to whack them. And so there's no such thing as the guy interviewed said, we were contractors wandering around looking for HVTs. No. Contractors do not go out and do offensive operations. You do not wander around looking for a high value target. There's a CIA Predator overhead. There's an AC-130. There's a couple of A-10s on call. You know, there's a Ranger QRF on standby. There's the PAs on the flight line spinning, waiting for a combat search and rescue. Okay, so the story initially says an infantry squad went missing. Bull. An infantry squad is not going to be far from a company size element minimum.
Correct.
Okay, and if it, then they said a soft team came in to look for that unit. Okay, if you're missing a unit, the PR is so bad for the military. You have never seen the military function until they're covering their ass.
Correct.
Okay? So you don't send another flippy dippy team in that they're not going to be far from their fire base either. So, you know, they said, oh, they found a mangled radio. Tell me the RTO, the radio operator is like, we have found the cave. We have found the cave. Now entering the cave. We're entering the cave. That they're not going to report the steps they're taking before they even get into the tangle. Because
it doesn't make sense. I mean, you and I,
we're going to go in the cave and call.
Yeah, you and I have been in combat. We know how shit rolls. All right. I mean, if I actually, get one dude wounded, I'm literally calling in the cavalry to get that guy.
There was no Iraq. There was no Iraq. Afghanistan was totally distracted by Iraq, and it contributed to losing the war. And there's a lot that goes into that. But the fact that the media was all over any kind of news. And when I got there, it was a month after Roberts Ridge, and people were still walking around wide-eyed, like in a bit of shock. And that's something that you're in shock over. If there was a giant whacking teams and all this, people would have been in shock over that.
Yeah, people would talk about it for years. There's just no way that's going to happen because you're going to have the rumor mill.
Well, you
And you
can't
were
tell the
in the
whole
rumor mill.
TOC decide an NAD.
Well, you were in the rumor mill, so you know that you know you would hear people
You
talking
need
about
support guys.
my buddy John
Who's
got
the
smoked by a
forklift?
giant.
Who's the forklift operator that tried to get the skids under this big bloody mess in a cargo net? Who's the crew chiefs and the crew guys who have to mop up this big biohazard of blood, and the
Yeah.
flight line guys that have to take the dunnage away and dispose of it, and the tower crew overlooking, like, what is this? What are you doing? What are you doing on our airfield? You know, that none of it floats. So, like you said about negative reporting or proving the negative, what I'm saying, there's in threat analysis and intelligence, nothing happens in a vacuum. So
Correct.
this is the photo negative of this case. Yeah, you could say, oh, the team was wiped out, never heard from. The government silenced them, never heard from. What about everybody else? Come on now. It just is not logical.
No, it's not. It doesn't
And,
make any sense. I don't know, man.
and again,
Well, I mean, here's some of my questions here. All right. So you're saying there was only 2 helicopters in that area that could do that. The Task Force 160 Chinooks that could get up to that altitude and lift a 2,200-pound dead giant on it. Correct? So, and then they put it in a car.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the story. They flew up there, put it in a cargo net, flew it down to what base? Who
To
moved it?
Kandahar Airfield and transferred it to a 130.
Yeah.
And then it
And
disappeared.
you know the Afghans would be fucking running their mouth about that because they would know about it. And there was no rumor mill from the Afghans, and there was no rumor mill going on with the soldiers on the ground.
That's right. That if the Afghans had an issue, I was their trusted guy. That look, you deal with him and you'll get results. Other people are kind of smile and lie. Yeah, and so anyways, from the governor on down, when you need something done, and you have to pull a lot out of your hat to get something done. I mean, you have to trade and barter and especially if you don't want there to be reports done.
No, you don't.
I did most of what I did with the plausible deniability, like, oh, well, he's the single Air Force guy, so he's not really in our chain of command if something happens. And I was good with that, and they were good with doing business that way.
I got you.
But I was flying single ship out by myself in town, which made me the subject matter expert. There was another agency that I did not like the CIA guys. I thought I wasn't impressed. There was another agency that used to exist called Defense Human Agency, and these guys, but they didn't have the support. So my unofficial network had to come into play to support them.
Correct. But the thing is like, I'm trying to keep hitting this point home. Nobody talked about it while you were there for almost 10 years.
No, not widely reported, not an open secret. These terms, just because you say it doesn't make it true.
Correct.
You know, it's circular reporting, and they're doing it for content because this is an irresistible story for content.
I got you. And I know it. And when I
and
covered
if it was true, I would love it.
I know. Listen, one of the main reasons we're doing this show is you were fucking pissed off that I covered the show and apparently I didn't cover it correctly. So we're doing it. Now we're fucking torpedoing this goddamn thing because it is nothing but bullshit in my opinion. Straight up.
And I said, it nothing against giants, okay? It's against the posers, the stolen valor guys who get the terminology from video games, and you know, stolen valor is like a mental illness, clearly, And so you could take it up a notch with this story, and the something about male insecurity where you need the attention, and
I
that's
got
what you get.
Now, I
But
myself have
who
people.
vetted these people? In intelligence, you vet people.
Yeah. Now, I myself have people like, sit there and tell me, "Oh, you're still in valor, Sergeant Popp. You didn't do this, you didn't do that." If you look on my website, my DD-214s are there, my NCORs are up there. It is what it is. So I don't play those games. And when I see other
I
people
have.
stealing valor, I get really upset.
Mhm.
I really do. And I think that's one of the lowest, most scummiest things you could do before killing and raping somebody, in my opinion.
I have known 3 people who have had their own reality TV shows, and they had nothing good to say about the experience because people come at you just to make content for themselves,
I got you.
and try to pull the stolen valor on people who clearly, you know, you can tell the real deal.
Here's another thing. What about the missing equipment?
Oh yeah, yeah.
If it was an ODA, they're walking around with probably $6 to $10 million worth of fucking whiz bang equipment and commo gear.
And even they said that it could have possibly been trucked out. Oh no, the drivability of Afghanistan. We had the jagged shale rocks that exist there. We actually had an SF Humvee is called a GMB. We had an emergency shipment of Mickey Thompson super swampers where the tread curls around the sides just to try to not lose a tire a day. We had pallets of these Mickey Thompson super swampers come in, which look cool as hell, but just you had to use stream beds to even drive at all. And there's no deuce and a halves in the SF.
Yeah, you're
and
not
no
taking
conventional troops are not going out there. We had to write the convoy SOP. Every war starts fighting the last war. So the whole convoy SOP that exists today didn't exist. And we had to put that together. So leading some convoy or a group of trucks into the mountains, which had to be conventional units, never going to happen.
Correct. Here's another thing. All right, so we're talking about airframes. At that altitude, how many people could you put in a Black Hawk?
3.
All right. What about
3
a Sea Stallion?
3 packs.
Three
Sea Stallion
packs.
had a gross inherent weight problem. Yes. The Osprey wasn't on the scene. We later had to acquire Russian helicopters because they did they did function, but that came years later. So it all comes down to those 2 aircraft. And I had to brief them.
All right. So you're talking, you sat in on hundreds of briefings over a 10-year period. You were in the know. You were the guy they went to for, weather intel and what have you. You were deeply entrenched, I would say, in the hog trading, black market kind of thing, because people like what they like. And at no time in 10 years did this rumor ever touch your ears.
No.
Okay.
Now there's a 2008 event that I don't know about. I'll lay no claim to that. But I think it's actually just a reemergence of 2002 story.
Well, that's how rumor mills work. It changes, it reappears. It's like a bad pimple. You take it off your face, it grows on your ass. It's just the way it goes.
And also the Afghans, I ran a 30 to 14, depending on the job, work crew of Afghans. I had 2 interpreters who were killed after I left. And I ran 14 also mission interpreters. So from the lowest guy to the highest guy, I was in it, over it, around it, at every level.
And here's another question. Where the fuck is this cave? Where on the map is it? I have never seen an actual location where this took place.
Yeah. and later on there are fire bases all through the mountains of Afghanistan are really just on the fringe of the northern province,
Correct.
and that central highlands was riddled with A camps. Um, so it's not like it wouldn't be revisited. There was A teams that found so much hardware in caves when they blew it up. It took the top of the mountain off. It made it a plateau.
Yeah, I actually
Um,
saw some of that footage where they fired a hyperbaric missile into one of these cave complexes, and hundreds of bodies came shooting out, and they just flying hundreds of feet, and just dying. It was insane. But yeah, I mean, where was this cave? And if the Afghans were going around building these bases in caves, it only makes sense that they would probably know where the caves were and use them for a base. So I find it hard to believe that there was a cave that had a giant living in it that nobody knew about. Now, come on. Get the hell
and
out of
riddle
here.
me this:
Yeah.
2002 was the last year of a 30-year drought. Okay, now you're talking 125-degree temperatures. Simple survival. You do not expend more energy to catch something than the sustenance that it will give you.
Correct.
So, how many chronically dehydrated 5'4" Afghans do you have to sustain your body mass with no 65% of Kandahar had no access to water?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the build-up areas. So how is this thing with this body mass going to sustain itself? And the Afghans are pretty quick. They're light on their feet, let me tell you. And even children, okay, the AK is going to damage flesh a whole lot better, and the Russian 7.62 is going to damage flesh a whole lot better than our platformed weapons.
At close
and
range.
They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on in the war, everybody had them. Kids had weapons, so how is this thing going to exist for
Without
obviously
getting shot.
decades? Yeah, without getting shot, converted to Islam, sold or eaten. How did the Russians not genetically modify this thing into a super soldier and use it during the Cold War? Come on.
Yeah, I know. I got you. I mean, this is insane. I don't know, man. And then you have, we already talked about the graves and registration, the airframes that couldn't cover it. You couldn't get to the location in a truck. You got, you're basically talking to hundreds, if not, thousands of individuals while you were there. And not one time did this super secret giant killing come across your desk. You never heard anything about it. Again, we're trying to prove a negative.
And here's
But let's
another thing. I was actually activated. I was attached to third group when 9/11 happened, but I was technically 20th group. Okay. So 20th group was given the AO of Kandahar. Third group teams, took different provinces.
Yeah,
So
I know.
the
I know
whole
3 guys that were on different teams during that time frame in 20th group. I was in 20th group from 05 to 07.
And I was tight with them because I pulled some shenanigans on their behalf that actually was responsible for them deploying, and I was rolling with them every day for fun. My job usually took an hour a day. There was 2 weeks of that time that I had 8 hours sleep in 1 week, but other than that, I was doing things way out of my lane. I was enjoying, because like I said, I didn't get that satisfaction you got by putting that green beret on. So I put a gray beret on instead.
I got
and
you.
I was living the dream. And I was actually more valuable in that capacity because team guys couldn't pull the shenanigans that I was pulling, and they appreciated it.
Here's another thing. Do you think if a whole, like 6 guys from an A team get whacked, or even airborne rangers, don't you think they would call an AC-130 up there to spank this thing?
Those guys wouldn't roll out without it.
Yeah.
They
would
would
have
have their
safety
fire
already.
support laid on. So you could say that somehow some infantry squad got in this debacle, but then everything they sent another special ops team out to find them. They're going to come. Oh, we're looking for missing guys. Oh, gee, maybe their compass is off. No, you go at it as if they were taken out, and you're going to deal with what you find.
Correct. And
it's a combat recovery mission. It has all assets.
Again, if a C-130 was called in, those guys would talk. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
and don't tell me, or the PJs rolling in hot with their miniguns, or the combat controllers dropping bombs.
Correct.
No.
Yeah,
no.
It's not.
None of it makes sense. And like I said, if it was a giant, I'd be on it.
Correct. It's hard to keep a secret in a war zone too, isn't it? Come on.
There's no compartmentalization inside. The OGA and the agencies. Their liaisons were with us, and we knew there was shenanigans that happened. We had a good beat on Bin Laden, and they took a pass. We had a good beat on a top 10 HVT. And they said, we call the aircraft. And then it turns out the signal intercept of that guy's phone is he was an agency asset.
Okay, I got you.
Why is a top 10 HVT an agency asset?
Well, listen, that's
when these things happen.
Listen, that's alphabet agency craziness. Fuck those guys. I'm talking about shooting this
we didn't talk about it. Yeah. We let that go. We didn't want to talk about it. But you have to function. Support guys, know when you're going to do something, because they got to get up early to support it.
Correct. What about the ammo, the batteries, the food, all of the fucking classes of supplies needed to send a dude out? Because guess what? There's supply sergeant who gave them the equipment. If the equipment goes missing, he's got to do a 15-6 investigation or a flipple. Where's the paperwork? If it happened, there's somebody out there with the paperwork. Where's the fucking paperwork? Listen, nobody dies without a fucking forest of trees being turned to paper to write about your fucking death. That's why I hate paperwork, because it always reminds me of some dude going in a body bag. Fuck that.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Popp for Supporters Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.